Have you ever heard of an economic theory called PROUT? But it asks a question that might just change how you see everything about our economy. So, let's break it down.
Just imagine this for a second. What if an economic system was built from the ground up with one single guarantee that every single person's basic needs would be met? It's a pretty radical idea, right? And it's the exact problem that the theory of PROUT tries to solve.
The answer it offers is called the progressive utilization theory, or PROUT for short. And look, this isn't just some small tweak to the systems we already have. It's a complete reimagining of who an economy is really supposed to be for.
So what is it that makes this model so fundamentally different from, say, capitalism or communism? Well, it all starts with its core pillars.
At its heart, PROUT is built on three really huge ideas. First, guaranteeing the minimum necessities of life for all. Second, making cooperatives the main engine of the economy. And third, decentralizing all the economic planning right down to the most local level possible.
Now, a system this different doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It has to be a response to a really big problem. And according to the people who came up with PROUT, it is. They argue that our current economic systems are fundamentally broken. The theory points to one single thing as the cause for this breakdown: a global crisis caused by completely ignoring the purchasing power of ordinary people. To put it simply, when most people can't actually afford to buy things, the entire system just grinds to a halt.
So how does PROUT actually propose to fix this? Well, instead of big, top-down policies, it starts with the individual. The whole economy is built up from their needs.
This right here is the absolute foundation of the PROUT system. The theory says that before anything else can happen, every single person has to be provided with 5 essentials: food, clothing, housing, medical care, and education. And this isn't some far-off goal. It's the non-negotiable starting point for the whole economy. But this guarantee raises a huge question. What about incentive? Why would anyone work harder? This is where the theory makes a really key distinction. It throws out the idea of equal distribution for all, calling it a utopian slogan that just kills motivation. Instead, it argues for rational distribution. So, after everyone's basics are met, any extra wealth goes to skilled people like doctors and engineers, because the idea is that their work benefits all of society.
Okay, so this focus on needs and incentives, it all boils down to the single most important lever in the PROUT economy: purchasing capacity. It's really just the ability of people to buy things. And the entire system is designed to constantly and systematically increase it for everybody.
And the theory lays out a pretty clear 4-step playbook to make that happen. You start by maximizing the production of essentials, not luxury goods. That helps restore the balance between what's made and what's bought, which in turn makes it possible to actually deliver on those guaranteed minimums for everyone.
Okay, so if everyone is guaranteed the basics and they have growing purchasing power, who's actually making and selling all the stuff? Well, this is where cooperatives come in.
PROUT argues that cooperatives are pretty much the ideal way to handle both production and distribution. Because they're run by their members, they're designed to get rid of the exploitative middlemen who just siphon profits out of the system.
And here's a great practical example of how that works. In an agricultural co-op, any profits are split cleanly right down the middle. 50% goes to wages for the workers, and the other 50% gets paid out to members based on how much land they contributed in the first place. Simple as that.
Now, this co-op model doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It's part of a really clear 3-tiered industrial structure. You've got your key industries, like utilities, which are run by the local government to make sure they serve the public. Then you've got cooperatives as the main economic engine, making most of the consumer goods. And there's still room for small, private businesses to fill in the gaps. The whole point is to have a place for everything, preventing confusion and overreach. This whole organized structure sets the stage for what might be the most radical part of PROUT: its intense focus on shifting power away from the center and putting it back into local communities. The vision is to break up these large, kind of impersonal states into smaller, self-sufficient socio-economic units. And these aren't just random borders on a map. They're drawn based on real shared things like common economic problems, geography, and even cultural ties. To make this a little more real, the source material suggests that a large state in India, Bihar, is actually 5 distinct regions. So under PROUT, it would be reorganized into these 5 functional units, and each one would have the power to create its own economic plan tailored to its own people. And the ultimate goal of all this decentralization is simple but really powerful. It's to ensure that, and I'm quoting here, the outflow of economic wealth from a region will cease and exploitation will be completely rooted out. In other words, local wealth should stay with local people.
Now, I know this might all sound very theoretical, but the source material actually applies it to a real-world problem, the collapsing jute industry in Bengal.
So instead of some top-down fix like nationalization, PROUT suggests a completely decentralized solution. First, you reduce the number of mills to match what the local supply of raw jute can actually support. Then you have those mills produce jute thread, not finished products. You distribute that thread through a network of local weaver and farmer co-ops. They meet local demand first, and only then is any extra exported. It's a model designed to keep the wealth right there, in the hands of the people doing the work.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the guaranteed minimums, the increasing purchasing power, the cooperatives, and this radical decentralization, what is the ultimate vision of a PROUT economy?
The end goal, then, is an economy where power really rests in the hands of local communities. It's a decentralized, cooperative system built to make every region self-reliant, and to make sure that prosperity is a right for everyone, not just a privilege for a few.
And that really leaves us with a fundamental question, one that feels more relevant today than ever. In our search for a better system, how do we balance guaranteeing the needs of the individual with providing the incentives that drive all of us forward together? Thanks for exploring this with me.